How important is full transparency of the trading process in a fixed income transition to help manage client expectations of the overall performance of that transition?
That is very important. We feel in every transition, managing client expectations is very important, whether it's equity or fixed income. And in order to set the expectations accordingly when you trade very illiquid fixed income bonds, it's in the first place very important to compare the valuations that you get from a custodian with, for instance, where the legacy manager or the target manager is marking these bonds, and we can engage with our trading desk. Being a pure agent and only trading on behalf of our clients means that we can engage our traders at a very early stage in the transition without the risk that the information that is embedded in the trade will be leaked into the market and being taken advantage of. Our traders can then compare the actual achievable prices in the market with the prices that are marked in the system, and we can set the client expectations accordingly if potentially the transition will be more expensive than originally anticipated.
It's often mentioned by transition managers that they sometimes find it difficult to sell off subordinated financing securities and legacy portfolios. Can you please highlight some of the possible workout solutions employed in these circumstances?
It is true that it's indeed not always that easy to sell down some of these securities, and it's first and foremost very important to understand the client's expectations of the transition. Why are they doing the transition? Do they need the proceeds very early to invest in something else or to pay out their pensions? Are they very unhappy with the legacy manager? Do they really want to get rid of these assets? So really do a trade-off between the speed of the transition and actually the prices that you can achieve. We often see that some of these assets in value terms are only a very limited amount of their total portfolio, but still they drive the price up maybe till 80%, even though they on value terms are just 5% of their total portfolio. What is often the case that clients are then reluctant to do a transition, even though it's a very small part. What we have done in the past is work with some selected specialist managers, ring-fence the assets involved that are very difficult to sell, and maybe park them in a specific workout scenario portfolio where those specialist managers can sit on these assets and sell them whenever there's an opportunity to sell them in a longer period of time. Meanwhile, we as a transition manager can trade the rest of the assets and do a transition in a normal period of time. What we also do when it's very difficult to sell down these assets is work with the legacy manager, the specialist as well. Potentially, he is interested in buying back some of these securities and is not interested to see a very low mark of these bonds in the market, which is then probably valuing down the rest of their portfolio as well. And finally, it's all about managing client expectations. Again, all the prices that we see in the market, if you get any bids, low or high, communicate with the target manager, with the legacy manager, with the client, and set their expectation and have a regular dialogue to see what you can do.
What should beneficial owners expect from their transition managers in terms of reporting and analysis of transitions, and in particular fixed income transitions? What should clients be looking out for?
Obviously, client reporting and client communication is very important in any transition, not just fixed income. But fixed income may require some additional communication as well. What we as a transition managers will always do prior to implementation, in the pre-implementation phase, make sure the clients are getting constantly updated on where we are in the project management phase of things. So helping with the legal, setting up custody accounts, making sure that the timelines are agreed between all parties involved. What you want to do is alleviate the operational burden to the client, but meanwhile make sure that he's still kept in the loop. And some clients don't want to be kept in the loop that regularly, others have regular phone calls, maybe multiple times a day. We make sure that it is tailor-made for every transition. And then obviously, once you have all the analysis done, provide them with a pre-transition report with a very detailed cost analysis, a cost estimate of what a transition will cost. But at least next, or as important as that, is also setting the scene for the strategy and what is the risk in the transition and what kind of risk mitigating strategies do we propose. Do you want to use derivatives to mitigate the risk, or do you want to use a smart trade, so optimize the physical securities that are part of the transition to mitigate the risk. There is no one right way to do a transition. There's always many different options, and it's very important to set the client expectations accordingly. We discussed it before, the very illiquid securities, make sure that the clients are aware that the prices that they see from their custody valuation may not be the prices that anyone can achieve in the market. And then during the transition, make sure that the client is regularly updated on a daily basis on the implementation shortfall that has been achieved, the implementation shortfall that is unrealized for still the securities that still need to be traded, performance, not just during the transition, but also prior and post. You expect that from your ongoing asset manager. Why not expect that from your transition manager? You want to make sure that your portfolio performance is accounted for the entire period that the transition manager is managing your account. And also, if there's anything that is out of the ordinary, we set the expectation, this is what it's going to cost, but suddenly market is rallying, which can create a positive outcome or a negative. You want to make sure that the client is up to date and aware of that during the transition. Finally, post-transition, you want to provide a report, obviously detailing the performance and highlighting any exceptions to what is expected. But other than with equity transitions, what we do additionally for fixed income transitions is provide a client with a so-called bid matrix, where we highlight all the different prices achieved on all the different bonds. So if you're selling a bond, we get multiple bids from various counterparties, and we provide that level of detail to the client to really show the best execution achieved and what the multi-venue approach to trading has done to their portfolio. And as a client, I would want to ask that question to my transition manager, because in opaque markets, as fixed income can be, you really need to be on top of the ball and get that level of clarity. I guess also what is very important, not just in fixed income, but other opaque areas where principal markets are ruling, like FX, it's very important that you ask the question to your transition manager, what prices have you achieved in the market? What is the price that I see in my account, and is it the same? And if not, explain why.
There's been a lot of press about the need for transparency around fees and pricing. How are you working with clients to provide them with the transparency they need?
We always say the very first decision can be the most important, and what we mean by that is when clients select their TM provider, that decision can make or break their performance almost. There are different business models in transition providers. You have the principal providers, the index funds, the custodians, and pure agency multi-venue providers such as Russell. When you're acting on behalf of clients, only trading as a pure agent, the prices that we will trade in the market is the price that the client will get in their account. There is no other way for us to make money other than the explicit commission that we will put on a trade. Legally, we're structured that way. We cannot take advantage of it. And for a client, it is a very clear and transparent way. You know what you pay for your transition. The transition manager cannot make any hidden revenues other than the explicit commission in the market. Afterwards, we will always provide the client with a very explicit bid matrix, as we call it. When we go out to market, we engage with multiple counterparties, not randomly, but we get on a daily basis thousands of runs from our counterparties showing their inventories and their interest in different bonds and sectors in the market. We will engage with these counterparties that have an active interest in the bonds that we need to trade in order to get the best prices for the bonds. And we don't go out to one or two, but maybe 3 or 4 to make sure that we get the best price for our clients. And we will provide that level of transparency in our post-transition report so the client will know that we actually got the best price for them.